in plant soils and climate, both from Utah State University. He manages a number of exciting programs related to biofuels, freeway to fuels, the Utah Biomass Resources Group, urban farming and fuel effort, and bases to biofuels, which is work with the military. So please join me in welcoming Dallas Hanks.
Thank you for that introduction, and I'll give you just a brief background. Farm boy from Idaho that's turned a few pages is all, and so I very, very, very enthusiastic about renewable energy. I think it's the future, and I have kind of given the rest of my career to this side of developing economically and sustainably available renewable energies. Just to give you a little bit of background about our projects other than with the Utah Biomass Resources Group, we started out on the freeways trying to figure out how to grow biofuel feedstock crops along freeways. That's going fairly well, becoming a national movement. Here in the West, we're not quite as suited to do that as they are in other parts of the country where they have precipitation. Then we were asked by the military to go in and analyze 6 bases east of the Mississippi to see what kind of biofuel feedstocks we could grow on their lands. This was primarily for the biodiesel market because you can put biodiesel in the tank today. It's the only advanced biofuel available on the market, and it meets the RFS 2 standards of the EPA. And so as all these other things come, we'll be set very pretty now to move into those different feedstocks as well. And then Salt Lake County has done a very, very unique project in where they have actually located land that they are not currently using but will be using in 15 years or so. So we did the same kind of project there where we could grow biofuel feedstock and convert that biofuel feedstock for liquid fuels for their fleet. And we're in our 2nd year there, and hopefully that will continue and grow. So I'm here to kind of give you an introduction to Bioenergy 101 in Utah. I guess I should have put that in my title. I am certainly not an expert in bioenergy across the nation. I do have a little bit of experience and background in that, but there are certainly people that are more qualified than I to talk about that. Let's see here. So I feel like I'm kind of in the presence of a celebrity with Anthony being here because, I mean, the billion ton study is just, it's kind of like the Bible to me. I probably read it about as often as the Bible, but I really rely on it when I need a reference. And so you can see this is right off his new study here. And basically really grateful for all the work that the Oak Ridge and all the contributors to the billion ton study have done. Because I really believe that it's a future for America and its energy security. And if you don't feel that we have an energy problem, then you and I probably ought to have a sidebar and maybe discuss a few issues. But basically, bioenergy in general is any energy that we derive from biomass, and biomass is something that's been alive. And so, you know, it comes from various sources, and there are more sources than are here, but I wanted to give you kind of a 30,000-foot view, and like Anthony said, very interested in the forest residues here in Utah. And then me being an agricultural person in a non-agricultural environment, being the wood people, I've had to learn a lot real quick and still learning. But Anthony, I'll be pleased to tell you that I sit in meetings with Monsanto reps all the time, and they're even predicting greater yields than what the billion ton study does. So, you know, if that's true, they're telling us within 10 years they're going to double the corn yield. So I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just telling you what they're saying. So basically, let's move on then to what the Utah Biomass Resources Group does. We're brand new. We're barely a year old. Okay, and before the Biomass Resources Group, we didn't have a seat at the renewable energy table here in Utah. It was all geothermal, wind, and solar. Nobody talked about biomass. And so basically what we did is we got together and said, okay, we need to form a group that can consolidate all of our ideas and become organized. And so these are some of the partners that we have in the group. We've tried to take federal, state, private, a lot of different types of groups, and really see what we can do in terms of woody biomass utilization in the state. Our primary focus is healthy forests. Okay, that's what the forest guys tell me, is that's what our focus is, all right? And so basically we're trying to do that by a different management technique than we've done before, and in order to do that, we have to have something to do with the residues that are produced from these management techniques. So our goals are, at the UBRG, is to promote Utah woodland health, like I just said, and then facilitate this environment, almost this incubator environment, where we can actually do something, okay? Not so we can continue to be a research scientist or continue to blue sky, but actually maybe pop smoke is what I like to call it, and actually get some wheels spinning and turning. And so basically we want to assist in the biomass market here in Utah. We want to create jobs. I am a big believer in distributed energy. I don't know if the power companies that are here today might not want to hear that, but I really believe there's still some people in America that want to do some things for themselves. And so there should be a balance there and an option. We're forming partnerships, and the talk on partnerships was outstanding. We're forming those weekly. And then we're working very hard to appropriately identify technologies, and INL is one of our partners in that. We have other partners, and basically trying to figure out what their model is and then what we can do to help support their model. And that's where a lot of our ideas have come from, actually, is the lab up in Idaho. Okay, so let's talk about the woody biomasses resources that we might have here in Utah. There's two different projections that we pull from. One's the crop. You've heard about both. You've heard about that. And then the other one is a study done by the Western Governors Association in conjunction with the University of Idaho. And so basically, I used the best of whichever one had the most wood, just for the purposes of this discussion. And so we went with 116,000 dry tons a year at $40 a ton. That's what came out of the Western Governors Association. Okay. Now, if that's the traditional resources, and I may not have mentioned, but my expertise comes from looking at areas that are not traditional to grow biofuel feedstocks in. Okay, roadways are not traditional. Army bases are not traditional. Where are these extra parts going to come from? We're looking for 10 million acres is basically what our goal is. And we think we've got a pretty good handle on it. Well, let's look at this pretty juniper population that I always thought were really nice to get pine nuts off of, but that was about, all I ever thought of these types of biomass. Here in Utah, it's estimated that somewhere around 9 million acres. How much of that is accessible or not, we'll determine later. And as you heard this morning, Lance talk about, or Lance and other speakers talk about 5 tons to the acre is what we're thinking in terms of yield on those. But Lance has found with his work with Bob Rummer that may be really low. He's even getting some that might be 20. And so basically now, if we look at this comparison of 45 million tons on 116,000 dry tons as developing, and where the low-hanging fruit is, we're really starting to focus on the Pinyon juniper. Obviously, there's some real potential there. And it's currently also a managed species. And that's one of the other things I'm an expert in, or that I have some experience in, is trying to figure out, when we're maintaining something, how do we decrease the costs in those maintenance? Okay, so if you're mowing a roadside and not getting any fuel out of it, you're just throwing your money down a rat hole. But if you can get some money out of that roadside when you mow it, then and so that's what we're trying to do here at the Utah Biomass Resources Group, is trying to figure out what's going to be the best direction for us to head. So if you're a businessman, sometimes I have to put my economics cap on, and I'm not a very good economist, but I did study a little bit of it in college. And so if we look at the non-PJ woody biomass in the state, and we assume that the non-PJ woody biomass has the same BTU value, which it doesn't, as does the PJ, This is the difference over a 45-year growth cycle. We have a $198 million industry versus a $1.7 billion industry. Now, of course, you can see the advantage. And this doesn't include, you know, the 5 or 6 or how many hundreds of dollars of acre per acre that we're spending to remove this right now and just leave it laying on the ground. So you can see this is a tremendous opportunity. And then I put at the bottom, if you want to go through all the assumptions and all that stuff, you can. And this is a graph that caught my eye as I was doing some literature research on this. It basically shows the 3 stages, and we've talked a lot about that. Well, as a scientist, I start to look at what's coming down the pipe at us. You know, this phase 1 tree population, it's medium, but the phase 2 is just about ready to tip over into that phase 3, and we're going to have a lot of phase 3. Okay, so that's coming down the pipe at us pretty fast. This is the Nevada, Utah, Oregon, and Idaho region, and basically shows you there that we're stage 2 just getting ready to tip into stage 3. And so as Lance talked about and others in their presentations this morning, we've got some work to do. So where are we? This is what we do in Utah. Okay, the red is coal. We have a whole 2% of renewable in the state, and so unless you want to call it hydro renewable, which you can arguably call that. And so basically we have a lot of market share to capture in terms of business opportunities. The coal company doesn't want to hear that, but you know, it's not much we can do about that. So moving biomass forward and bioenergy forward in Utah. This is the first light bulb that was made by Edison, in Menlo Park in 79. Anybody know how long it burned? 40 hours, exactly right. Okay, and so it cost about, well, I think light bulbs back then cost about, if I remember right, about the equivalent of about 1/4 of what they do today. And so basically, we look at the modern 2011 compact fluorescent. How long does it burn for? Yeah, 10 to 12,000 hours. And so that's a 250-fold increase. So basically, did we fall on top of the mountain when we tried to invent the light bulb? No. Okay, it took years and a lot of hard work, and finally we're at the point where we are today. And so that's what I'm saying about the woody biomass, trying to move it forward as a group here in Utah. We don't have a large budget. We can't afford to buy a $500,000 Biomass machine to pull around the state and tell everybody how wonderful gasification is. So this is the first thing we're trying to do. We're trying to increase that social license that was talked about yesterday. We're trying to increase people's understanding of technology, that this technology that we're developing is not new, that it's at least a century old. Okay, there's nothing really new about gasification other than a few bells and whistles. We've been doing it for a long time. So what we're trying to do is our first project here to move this forward, kind of remember that Edison light bulb. We went to the Air Force and got a van from them for free. Okay, they were going to surplus it off. And we got a little bit of money from the Utah Department of Agriculture, and we're going to figure out how to put this gasifier in back of the van here, and we're going to run around the state and make ice cream, or I don't know what we're going to do with it here in Utah. I guess when we go to Nevada, the request has been margaritas, and so basically that's our goal. So what we'll do, when this isn't being used out on the road as a demonstration unit, it'll be parked at the Utah Botanical Center, and it will power and heat part of their greenhouses. And so that's part of the Fuels for School money that we're trying to figure out. You notice the scale that we're starting on here? Very important, I think. I think it's very important for us to proceed in biomass on a small scale, get our proof of concept, and then go bigger. These guys, I've been through all the busts, okay, from cellulosic to algae and to whatever's coming next. And so I want to go slow but do it right. And so this is the scale we need to start on, I believe. We need to distribute that out and get everybody thinking, get everybody helping, and not make those cost barriers so high that we can't get into the project. Second thing, was touched on transportation of biomass in Anthony's talk. That is the single biggest problem right now with biomass. It isn't that we can grow it, and it isn't that we can refine it. It's getting it from where we grow it to where we refine it. Okay, and that's what INL is trying to specialize in right now. They have their PDU, basically what they call their Pioneer system, where they're trying to figure out what it's going to take for us to move biomass at the same price as coal. Okay, so what we have to figure is $38 a ton is what we're going to get for the same BTU value of biomass to coal. And so we were up at INL one day, and Mike was talking to us a little bit, taking us on a tour, showing us the PD unit, showing us some of the equipment. And we got to talking, and he said, you know, because they have a pellet mill that they're going to densify with. And we said, what about a briquetter? Gil had brought a magazine of farm equipment. What's it called, Gil?
It's the Farm Handyman.
Yeah, it's the Farm Handyman magazine, and they had a portable pellet mill in the back that you could drive with a PTO. And so Darren and I got to talking, the co-chair of the UBRG with me, and we said, let's put that on a tractor and go out in the forest and see what we can get. And so, you know me, I just went off on a tangent, and we started thinking, what's less energy than pelletizing? And so we feel like briquetting would be a lot less energy and be more available to us. And so this is actually down in the WETEC Center. Utah State University just acquired this equipment. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be testing different forms, either non-thermally transformed and thermally transformed woody biomass, and see if briquetting is actually going to make it so that we can compete with coal in terms of BTU. Okay, and so that's the next thing we're trying to do. Third thing we're trying to do is we're trying to go out in the field. Okay, I still don't understand why we don't have an oilseed press on a combine. You know, I mean, there's economists that'll explain it to me all the time. I'm like, still makes sense to me as a farmer. If I can densify that energy into an oil in the field and put the cake in the thing, then that's a whole lot better. But this is actually one of our new USTAR professors' system that was developed at Virginia Tech, and it's a portable pyrolysis unit, and he actually used this in the poultry waste industry. And so what we have done is we've gotten with Faster, we've gotten with Amaron Energy, which is a small company, weirdest story in the world. I'll tell you about it in a second. But so we're taking Faster's technology, we're taking Amaron Energy's technology, we're taking some of the Army's technology, and we're taking some of the U of U's Clinton Institute expertise, seeing if we can throw these together and make a nice omelet out of it. And so what we envision is us going out in the field and doing pyrolysis, kind of like an oil platform. We can break it down and move it, you know, and then if we can densify that into a liquid, if we can densify the carbon energy of that woody biomass into a liquid and into a biochar which can be then briquetted, then I believe economically and sustainably we have a real viable product to move. So this is where we're starting on this project. Okay, we're actually we've gotten some money from the Forest Service and the BLM have been very gracious and so helping us get this off the ground. And then as Lance showed you the field day, that was an amazing day. As for a farm boy, for me, I love equipment. And so bring that big grinder down there. I wanted to get in and drive it, but of course I wasn't allowed to do so. But we're trying to figure out the baseline like Lance talked about this morning. We're figuring out what's available, okay? How much does it cost? Then what do we need to improve upon based upon that baseline? All right, so that's another thing that we'll be doing. And the last thing we'll be doing is we'll be characterizing the PJ further. There's a lot of work that needs to be done yet on that characterization. And so we'll be working with both INL and the University of Utah. Lastly, I think we're jumping into bed with Rocky Mountain Power, and we're going to see if we can take all of these ideas, make them, as was said by Drew this morning, if we can take and get them a sustainable, a reliable source of fuel. And so it would come into them as the biochar. And then if it burns the same as coal, then they could mix it right with the coal and we could co-fire with it and so on and so forth. So that's what we're trying to do here is we're trying to figure out, first of all, what are the parameters we need to study on the PJ, and then second, can we then co-fire? There's actually a plant that we think we're going to be able to actually move into there. So in conclusion, remember we're about forest health, and how are we going to do forest health? Well, we're going to change our management strategy, and if we change that management strategy, then what we have to do is we have to figure out a place for the wood to go that we take out of the forest. And so hopefully I've given you an insight into what we're trying to accomplish here in Utah in terms of moving bioenergy ahead.